The United States didn't give our greatest generation to the fight against Nazi Germany or commit half a century of focus and resources to defeating Soviet communism just out of a sense of altruism. And we aren't helping partners resist authoritarian aggression today out of some warm and fuzzy sense of charity. We haven't equipped the brave people of Ukraine, Israel, or Taiwan with lethal capabilities in order to win philanthropic accolades. We're not urgently strengthening the defenses in the Indo-Pacific because it feels good. We don't wield American strength frivolously. We do it because it's in our own interest. We equip our friends to face our shared adversaries, so we're less likely to have to spend American lives to defeat them. For years, I've warned about the growing threats to America's national security and the growing coordination among our adversaries. And for years, I've worked to steer greater investments toward the hard power needed to deter them. The Russian despot trying to conquer Ukraine also wants to see America weakened. The Chinese autocrat hoping to subjugate Taiwan also wants to consign American leadership to history. The Iranian regime that equips the slaughter of Israel's Jews and a terrorist war on international commerce also wants to shatter our influence in the region and spill American blood in the process. They tell us by their actions. Pretending not to hear them is not an option. Delaying until the cost in American lives and treasure rise immeasurably is not an option. The time to stand up to these gathering threats is right now. Every day, millions of Americans turn for their livelihood to an economic order built and underwritten by American leadership. And every time that peace and prosperity are threatened, we stand with allies and partners who trust in the righteousness of that leadership and the credibility of our commitments. Today, the future of the world I've just described is in question. The endurance of an order in which American support is craved and American strength is feared is in doubt. And we, the United States of America, have the most to lose. Ever since we came to the aid of our allies 80 years ago, America has been an inseparable partner in the security of Europe. Not out of charity, but because our own security and prosperity is tied to it. I know it's become quite fashionable in some circles to disregard the global interests we have as a global power, to bemoan the responsibilities of global leadership, to lament the commitment that has underpinned the longest drought of great power conflict in human history. This is the idle work for idle minds, and it has no place in the United States Senate. In this chamber, we must face the world as it is. We must reject the dimmest and most short-sighted views of our obligations and grapple instead with actual problems as they come in the harsh light of day. And today, the questions facing this body are quite simple. Will we give those who wish us harm more reason to question our resolve, or will we recommit to exercising American strength? Will we give those who crave our leadership more reason to wonder if it's in decline, or will we invest in the credibility that underpins our entire way of life? I cannot answer these questions for any one of my colleagues but none of us can afford to get them wrong.
Idle work for idle minds. That was Mitch McConnell in a rare attack on his Republican colleagues who are attempting to block the Senate's bipartisan bill to help fund Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan. So after killing the border bill, senators got back to work trying to get the other aspects of the deal passed, namely support for our Democratic allies against their autocratic enemies. This really has become a critical point of division within the GOP amongst your more traditional Republicans and the new MAGA sort of faction, where you see the most loyal Trump supporters are against funding Ukraine and abiding by our commitments abroad. And they see it as some sort of plot against Trump and America. In fact, that's exactly what J.D. Vance had to say. Here's what he said, quote, "This new Ukraine bill tries to make it illegal for Trump to do what he is promising on the campaign trail. It is a plot against President Trump, plain and simple." Now, what is it exactly that Trump is promising to do on the campaign trail? Abandon our global allies in the West and our treaty commitments in favor of the autocratic, kleptocratic regimes that are attacking them. And don't just take our word for it, take his.
One of the presidents of a big country stood up and said, well, sir, if we don't pay and we're attacked by Russia, will you protect us? I said, you didn't pay? You're delinquent? He said, yes, let's say that happened. No, I would not protect you. In fact, I would encourage them to do whatever the hell they want. You got to pay.
And here's what he had to say about Putin and Xi at that same rally.
I know Putin very well, very smart, very sharp. They hate when I say that, you know. They say, oh, you called him President Xi of China. I say, very smart man. They ask me, is he smart? I said, well, let's go a step above that. Let's say he's a brilliant guy. The press goes, he called President Xi brilliant. Well, here's a guy controls 1.4 billion people with an iron fist. Yeah, I'd say he's smart.
It is genuinely hard to overstate how dangerous these comments and commitments really are by the former president. NATO was formed in order to prevent a world war. Russia has explicitly stated its goal is to unite the former Soviet Union, which means invading Poland and other European countries. China has pledged to invade Taiwan, which would not only threaten American supply chains and give China disproportionate influence over the United States, but would also signal to other autocratic regimes across the world that America is not serious about its commitments. The only real deterrent against China is them knowing that we commit to standing with Taiwan and that we follow through on our commitments. The only real deterrent against Russia and their quest to invade these countries in Europe and their quest to reunite the Soviet Union is NATO. They know that if they do these things, if they invade these countries, the Western powers, in particular the United States, Germany, France, Britain, and so many others, have a treated obligation to defend them. If we don't follow through on that obligation, we essentially kill NATO, the most powerful and effective military alliance in world history, and we kill our standing as the leader on the global stage. Here's what NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg had to say about Trump's comments in a statement he just issued. NATO remains ready and able to defend all allies. Any attack on NATO will be met with a united and forceful response. Any suggestion that allies will not defend each other undermines all of our security, including that of the United States, and puts American and European soldiers at increased risk. I expect that regardless of who wins the presidential election, the U.S. will remain a strong and committed NATO ally. And here's what Nikki Haley had to say about Trump's latest comments on NATO.
NATO has been a success story. For 75 years, we haven't had a war in that region because it's an alliance that scares Russia. Russia has never invaded a NATO country. They invaded Georgia, they invaded Ukraine, they invaded Moldova, all non-NATO countries. They are scared of the alliance. He just put every military member at risk and every one of our allies at risk just by saying something at a rally like that.
And that's exactly right. Trump's comments put our own security at risk. They put the Western world's security at risk. This is the new battle within the Republican Party. There's this MAGA faction, which wants to run on border security, but not secure the border. They want to talk about global strength and leadership, yet abandon our allies and our interests and our leadership on the global stage, versus the more traditional Republicans who actually have some desire in legislating. They have some desire in preserving American leadership and interests in the world. Senators like James Lankford, who negotiated the bipartisan border deal, they killed. And even senators like Mitch McConnell, who I can't believe I'm actually agreeing with here. They happen to like America and the West being these beacon of democracies and leadership and want to protect that, as do Democrats. As Trump gets more unhinged and autocratic on the campaign trail, we can probably expect the divide within the Republican Party to get even bigger, more nationalistic, this America First MAGA vision of the world getting more poisonous and more serious about abandoning our place in the world and siding with our enemies over our allies. All we can really do is hope that more Republicans start to stand up and push back on some of these crazy ideas, but I'm not holding my breath there. So, of course, the most effective way at beating back on this craziness is to point it out, to actually cover it, and then to re-elect Joe Biden. With Really American, I'm Justin Horwitz. Please be sure to like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We've got a ton planned going into this next election. You don't want to miss it. Thanks.